I'll start with the challenging, right? And not in a bad way, but so one of the challenging things about my career specifically is the you have to kind of I guess like learn to and constantly, right? It's not something that you learn for once and you're done, right? But I constantly learn context switching because as a consultant, there will be like a project that comes about like a multi-million-dollar project, right? And you're working on it for, let's say, 6 months or even a year or 2 years or 3 years, and when it's done, right, you basically move on to the next project, right? And then you work on that, it's done, and then you move on to the next one, right? So what does that mean, right? Whatever thought process you used on the first project, you may or may not use that on the next one, right? So you have to kind of switch sort of like the context from a currently previous project to the next. And then the other thing is, because the projects are not limited to like any one industry, and also not just one company. There's a lot of there's need for how can I put this? Like being able to not manage, but being I think the phrase I'm looking for is I'm drawing a blank, but being emotionally intelligent. I think that's emotional intelligence. Yep. And what that means is, we're a diverse, nation, and beyond that, right? The company I work for is a global company, as many companies as well out there, and so there are tons of people with different personalities and different backgrounds, right? And you cannot assume, and a certain group is of a certain background or thinks a certain way, right? So one of the big challenges is kind of obvious, like not obvious, but quite often reminding yourself to kind of have an open mind and knowing that at any given point in time, you could be working with someone. You could be talking on the phone and not know it, but you could be talking to someone who is, yes, an American, right, or of African descent, like myself. I'm originally from Uganda, or speaking with someone who is of Indian descent, right, or Pakistani, or so there are certain things, there are certain ways that we construct our sentences when talking, and we may have sort of like unintentional biasness, right, if we're not careful, right, in the way we talk. And so I think that's kind of like one of the challenges is, to kind of constantly remind yourself that it could be anyone out there. So the examples you give, the way you describe certain things, the way you make your assumptions, the work we do is usually full of assumptions, but like the way you make those assumptions, to be cognizant of the fact that whoever you're talking to, you may be thinking, I'm being inclusive in the way I'm talking, but in reality you're not, right? And it obviously won't be good, right? So that's as far as challenges are concerned. As for what I love about my job, again, I think this is specifically for me. I wouldn't necessarily say all consultants out there or all people that are in technology. I love it because I get to actually learn about all industries, right? So I can pick and choose whatever industry that I want to, learn more or work with, right? It could be the financial industry, JP Morgan, Bank of America, whatever the case may be, right? It could be high tech industries like Microsoft or even Google, whatever, like all those high tech companies. It could be pharma, pharmaceutical companies, like hospitals and actual companies that manufacture drugs. So a myriad of industries, right? So it's not just limited to like one domain. So you kind of get like the opportunity to test out and work with all those industries. And then the other thing is, and this is a huge one for me, is every time I get on the project, I basically challenge myself by asking this: how do I put myself out of work, right? And what that means is I start to develop this notion of I don't want to, hang on onto a role, right? But rather, okay, so how do I get out of my current role? And what that really means is, how do I, not how, but I start to program myself to mentor someone else to step into my role, right? I personally just want to, look at things from a more like a bigger picture. I want to know like the whole entire process, like how everything is working and why I adapt. And so what I spend most of my time actually on is really like building teams, right? Mentoring my teams, the teams that I work with, having people, usually they're very curious, how I do things. So helping them play some of the roles that I'm playing. Well, I really, for the most part, I just sit back and make sure that the machine is running well, and just always there to remove obstacles from my teams and so on and so forth. But that's what I really love about my project. Like my current project, for instance, they paid, my company a ton of money to offer what's called white glove service, which is basically this company that we're doing work for is very, to say the least, it doesn't want to invest in getting better, like, with like forecasting to know how much work is coming in and, okay, plan for those resources and so on and so forth. They just want to get their work done and that's it. And so, meaning like, when they want X to be there. And yeah, we've built like a relationship over the years, 3 years and counting right now, very rare in the consulting world. But all of that is possible from everything that I told you guys about, right? The context switching, the working with different personalities and being emotionally intelligent when, talking and presenting and making assumptions, to not hanging on to the job, like, if without that job or without that role, you're going to, as if you're going to die, right? You're not going to, right? So allowing people to come in and not feel threatened, right? That I might lose my job, but offering that, hand, offering that mentorship to whoever reaches out to you, or even if they don't reach out to you, but you think they might benefit from, playing the role or supporting you or whatever the case may be.
Make sure to check out the My Career tab on the BC Navigator app, where you can track your career progress based on the amount of credits you've earned, stay updated on upcoming events from the Magner Center, and watch our videos for insight and advice on your career field.